In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. Muhammad Ali used to say to opponents that he would face in the ring, "You can run, but you can't hide." The same can be said to descendants of slaves today. We can run, but we can't hide from what is facing us, the challenges which lie ahead. The challenges which, if we do not meet successfully, will doom us to extinction. And we can see that pattern already, because all one need do is look at the statistics provided to us going back over the last 40 years. The great failure of the African American baby boom generation, their degradation by drugs, and the loss of the work ethic, the dysfunction in their families, and the poor rearing of their children has resulted in a population of African Americans who are nearly incapable of taking care of themselves, protecting themselves, and making rational decisions about the course of their lives. Our fate as descendants of slaves today is not in our hands. Instead, our fate lies in the cold calculus of white supremacist capitalism. Not capitalism per se, but white supremacist capitalism. I read a book many years ago. It was entitled, or written rather, by Carol Quigley. He echoed in that book the thoughts of the global elite. We refer to them as the 1%ers. That set of corporations which control, dominate, and exploit over 40% of global wealth. He said, and I quote, "The Negroes and Latinos are really an educational and social problem for which economic or racial solutions would help little," end quote. That's code language. And what that means is that it was determined by the elite that they would not provide the infrastructure necessary to prepare youth who are descendants of slaves and Latino youth, the skills that they would need to compete in the marketplace for the types of jobs that are now emerging in this post-industrial society. What does post-industrial mean? It means that the types of jobs that people once did in factories, that were once based in the United States, assembly line work, cannery work, no longer exist in a measure that is sufficient to absorb the millions of descendants of slaves who need employment to care for themselves if they want to work. African Americans were brought to the United States for one purpose, and one purpose only. They were brought to the United States as a labor capital investment. You must understand the cold calculus of white supremacist capitalism. After the transition of the United States to an industrial economy, the overarching national question posed by the elite to the elite has been what to do with Negroes. And what to do is another code. How can they generate wealth more than they are a liability? Not only do they operate within the paradigm of racism, hatred for your very phenotypical characteristics, but they operate on the cost-benefit ratio. What benefits can you provide versus what it will cost to them for even having you on the scene? And when the scale of cost is greater than the benefits which accrue to them from your presence, then they set in motion policies to eliminate the cost. And that reduces to eliminating the presence of African people, descendants of slaves, in the United States. You were brought here to do intensive manual, agricultural, and domestic work. But no longer do descendants of slaves do agricultural work. Mexican migrant workers have taken those jobs and have laid a foundation for their families upon which they can build their future in the United States. Their arithmetic is simple. Some money is better than no money. One is better than zero. And their efforts are predicated upon the aggressive manliness to do for their families, to face whatever challenges are before them and to overcome them, even if they must stoop down into the dirt and pick tomatoes to do so. You can travel throughout the United States of America and go from resort to resort, from hotel to hotel, and you will find that 90% of the domestic work today is being done by Latinas. They wash the toilets. They make the beds. They smile at the guests. They are courteous. And they do not steal the property of the guests in the hotel. And they get paid. And they understand the basic arithmetic that $1 is better than no dollars. And that it is a step in the direction of economic self-sufficiency and the provisioning of their families. But rarely do you see descendants of slaves doing domestic work any longer. And if you do, they are probably Eritrean or Ethiopian or Nigerian or from some other African country. Immigrants who are prepared psychologically to face the challenge to do something for themselves. The value of Africans as labor capital depended upon whether the cost paid for them would be less than the benefit. You must understand that. Because if you don't get the math, if you do not understand the cost-benefit ratio, then scenes such as those we have seen in Ferguson and in Staten Island and New York and Chicago and Compton and Oakland will continue over and over and over again. Because the formal policy and the informal policy is disdain for African American males who lack the manliness to care for their families and themselves. That is how we are perceived by the white supremacist. Not only is there hatred for our phenotypical characteristics, but there is disdain for our manly characteristics. And that is just simply the way they perceive us. And that is why police officers may be fired for shooting a dog and not fired for shooting young African American males like Michael Brown or Mr. Powell, who was shot recently in Ferguson, Missouri. But we want reparations. We make a claim to the government. You owe us. You owe us for the free labor of our ancestors. You approach them as though you can expect justice from a institution which was predicated upon injustice. There is a flaw in the reasoning of anyone who approaches the federal government with the expectation of justice, or any state government, or any county government, or any city government with the expectation of justice. Reparations were once given. More than 10,000 African Americans were granted reparation for slavery and given 40 acres and a mule in the state of North Carolina. They were given that under General William T. Sherman's Special Field Order number 15 on January 16, 1865. It was proposed by Abraham Lincoln. However, it was never made into law by Congress because the members of Congress stalled. They did not want to see freed slaves economically self-sufficient because that would eliminate their exploitability. After Lincoln's assassination, Sherman's Special Field Order number 15 was revoked by President Andrew Johnson. And all land which had been distributed to African people at that time was returned to white owners. Now understand something. The revocation of that field order by Andrew Jack Johnson can be repealed by any president. Any sitting president can repeal the revocation of Special Field Order number 15.
I really enjoyed this video, and I hope you did as well. If you enjoyed Stephen's talk, please support this channel, thumbs up, and share this video. And please do not forget to subscribe.